Hi ladies and gentlemen, it's March 20th, 2013, and this is going to be a little long one, I'm afraid. Despite what appears to be going on in the news, there's actually a lot more. And it's going to be something that maybe you'll be a little surprised I'm talking about, although I've hinted at some of this before. But let's start out with the normal stuff first. As usual, I'm going to read some of this because there's just so much information. North Korea has threatened to shoot down any of those nuclear-armed B-52s that are flying over the Korean peninsula. Frankly, I don't know if they have the capability to do that. As I've said during this entire problem, this entire situation with North Korea, the North Koreans really aren't well equipped. It's a large army and they have a lot of equipment, but a lot of it's outdated. So, they make a lot of threats, but when you have heads that aren't cool, sometimes things can get out of hand, and they certainly have the capability to carry out some of their threats. Now, really, I think what's driving this right now are some disputed islands on the border between North and South Korea. I think that's the issue that they're making. I think you probably have been able to glean that from the news. Of course, part of it's also because Kim Jong-un needs to flex his muscle and prove that he's a man, and his generals are certainly there to do that for him. Is he really the all-powerful ruler? No, I think like a lot of other people, he's a figurehead. There are people controlling this guy from behind the scenes that are the real danger. So just keep that in mind. The North Koreans might also have initiated a cyber attack on South Korea. It might be a little too early to jump to that conclusion, but apparently it affected some of their communications and their banking system. So it's just something to keep on top of. It is a flashpoint at this point, and anything could happen. It's just really hard to say. I still think that North Korea is primarily a diversion by the globalists, by the NWO at this point, to keep our eyes off of what's happening to the economy. We're in a lot of trouble, and the only thing that's keeping the United States afloat right now, so that we're not like Italy or Greece, we really are like them, but the only thing that's keeping us from actually going through the same things, like in Cyprus and all that, is that $85 billion being pumped into the economy. It's not really the economy, it's into Wall Street, into the banking system, by the Federal Reserve. So, I still think that all this is to keep our minds off of what's going on elsewhere in our government. Okay, and I could go into Syria and all that now, but I think you should know by now that the chemical attack in Syria was done by Al-Qaeda, not by the Syrian army, and that only makes sense. The people in the United States don't really understand the innuendo and the nuances of all these things happening around the world, because the media just doesn't tell them, and they don't instruct themselves, they don't educate themselves. With this whole thing with Cyprus, did you notice, Russian Putin made a statement that he condemned what the banks and the EU is going to try to do to people who had bank accounts in Cyprus. He spoke up against it. Did you notice somebody that was actually missing from all of this condemnation of the banks? Yeah, Obama, of course. He was missing. He didn't say a word about it. So, we've got the Russians concerned about it, and a lot of people try to say, well, they're money laundering there in Cyprus. Well, who isn't? Let me take you back to the U.S. Who was money laundering here? HSBC, Wachovia, to the tune of $450 billion. You don't hear much about that either, do you? Certainly not condemnation from Obama. So Obama's silence on this means agreement. Remember, silence means agreement. Very, very serious. Okay, I just want to make this statement. I heard it yesterday, and I think it makes a lot of sense, so I'm not quoting. This is not my own statement. This is quoting another gentleman. I talked about him a little bit. He's been in the liberty fight for like 40 years. And he made some really good points, and I want to say those here. Outside of the intervention of God, the future of the world does depend on the reestablishment, I'm going to say the restoration, of the Republic of the United States. The people are waking up here, okay? But it's not enough, and it's not fast enough. As we wake up a little bit, the NWO, the globalists, these elitists, they kick their plans into high gear as well. So we're still lagging behind on being able to stop this. So, you know, I don't know that there's any saving the United States, and I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes, and you've heard me say this. I think we're going to have to put those principles in our hearts and get prepared to carry them through to the other side of this destruction that's coming here. Whether or not we'll be given the opportunity to do that, I don't know, because there are those FEMA camps or all those things against conservatives, libertarians, you know the whole story. But it's something to hold on to anyway, that those principles are good. Now, another thing he mentioned is that there's a problem that the U.S. has, and of course we know a lot of our manufacturing and our corporations have gone overseas. We've outsourced a lot of things, so that's one problem. We don't have anything to sustain us there. You know, we depend on a service economy, on credit, imports, things like that. I mean, we're almost as bad as Japan was prior to World War II. The other problem, though, is and I wasn't aware of this. He says that the United States is only producing about half of the food that our population needs right now. Do you realize that we've lost our manufacturing and we're not producing but half of our food? Not that we couldn't, it's just that it's all been shut down, you know. That's the problem. So that leaves us very, very vulnerable. Basically what's happened is that we've allowed ourselves, because of all, and I'm not saying that we don't have to be aware of ecological concerns, you know, obviously environmental issues you do, but they make an issue out of carbon dioxide that is part of the life cycle here in the world, and they don't talk about the pollutants like GMOs, you know, about, you know, the acids, you know, the stuff that is really dangerous to us. They want to bring up carbon dioxide. Well, that's because they want to tax you for breathing but not call it that. So anyway, we are being destroyed from within, and the Club of Rome and all these people many years ago, the elitists I'm talking about, the NWO, what do you want to call them, they said they would make the environment the new enemy, get everybody surrounding that. And again, not that there isn't a problem with what we're doing, but it's primarily the globalists and their activities around the world that are polluting the earth. So, you know, they're trying to basically do a slow kill on the world's population. And I'm going to talk about the Georgia Guidestones in a few minutes, where it says that they need to keep the Earth's population around 500 million to a billion, so right in there. But you'll see that this thing is a genocide that they're planning. And so they're shutting down our ability to be independent, and that's not good. Okay, our leaders are bought off, you know. You know, how do you organize to accomplish something that you want to do? You know, you pay people. You get them on your side with that paycheck. You know, it's like cops. You know, I saw a thing down in Austin that was going on here not too long. Actually, you can see it anywhere. The cops will do what they're told rather than uphold and defend the principles of the Constitution. You know, they should offer themselves. I mean, if they're willing to go out and put their lives on the line to protect or to investigate, because they very rarely ever protect anybody, but to investigate and confront criminals, they're willing to put their lives on the line for that. They're willing to lose their lives for that, but they're not willing to lose their job to stand up for what's right, the Constitution and liberty. Isn't there something wrong here with where we have our priorities? I think so. Finally, remember Glass-Steagall, the thing that kept the banks from becoming investment institutions, not just banks, was done away with. And that's why this whole situation is run amok. Our political leaders did this to us in favor of the banks. You see what I'm saying about who bought who off? We have some problems here. And the banks are at the center of it, just like Jesus throwing the bankers, the money changers out of the temple. He knew who the problems were coming from, and we should too. I'm going to hold off on the Obama trip for just a minute. I want to make that kind of like the coup de grace, this little thing here. Deutsche Bank, head of the Deutsche Bank said, Deutsche Bank, I better say it right. He said, quote, "Only Jesus Christ can save Europe now." Okay, that's what's coming. And And then I was talking about David Frum yesterday, the old speechwriter for Bush, and how he is stating that, he wrote things that weren't true and all of that. I wanted to bring up something that came from the former DHS Secretary Ridge. He admitted in testimony that he was told to crank up false terror alerts to take the public heat off of President Bush. Now, this is old news, but I'm bringing it up now because I along with the Frum thing and Cheney admitting the 9/11 lies and the Flight 93 being shot down, all these things that are happening, you need to pay attention. They're telling you, remember I told you yesterday, at least I think it was yesterday, that these Luciferians, these occultists, these NWO people, they tell you what they're going to do before they do it. Okay? In subtle terms, but it's out there. Okay? They're telling you now that they lie to you and that it's okay. Okay? So they're telling you they do this. So don't trust them. When they give you the reasons to go to war, don't believe it. Syria is no threat to the United States. They're not even a clear and present danger, or an imminent threat, or a threat down the road, probably ever. And look what we're doing. North Korea is more of a threat. Lies, lies, lies. The father of lies and the son of lies. These people are liars. Remember, you'll look at the fruits. By their fruits ye shall know them. These are liars. They are the progeny of the king of liars. All of them. I'm getting upset. Sorry. Okay. Last little bit here before I get into the Obama trip. The NSA, the CIA, the continuity of government, the shadow government, all of those things are building underground fortresses everywhere. Now, of course, the Russians are doing what a lot of people are doing. But I think it's important to know that they really know what's going on and they're not telling you. Okay? DHS has bought all this ammunition, all these armored vehicles. The government's digging in literally, and you're being told that you're a conspiracy theorist if you want to store 2 weeks' supply of food and some water and have a gun to defend yourself with. Do you see what's happening here? Southern Poverty Law Center's at it, telling us that conservatives are evil and are gonna kill the innocent little children in the daycare centers. The demonization is fully in place. And they're going to take you, if you're conservative, if you believe in limited government, individual rights, all of those things, they're coming after you. It's just a matter of time. Okay, I'm going to break here for just a second. I'll be right back. I want to get some information, so I'm sure I get it right. Okay? Hold on. Okay, to confirm that little break, I'm going to walk into the frame here, so it's not quite as shocking when you see the picture shift. I'm a historian. That's really where outside of my military profession, that's really where I have my expertise. And you study a lot of things in history. My area of emphasis was the first century, the Roman occupation of Palestine. Some of you may already understand that. That's why militarily I have such a good handle on what's going on historically, because history repeats itself. It really honestly does. Now, one of the things that people don't look at much in history are the spiritual movements. They want to keep that in the realm of the church and that kind of thing. But in reality, and I think most of you recognize this, for instance, the Roman Catholic Church had a great deal of influence, actually the prime influence in medieval Europe. So religions and spiritual ideas, by the way, that isn't the same thing, just so you know that I know that religion and spirituality aren't the same thing. Can be, but not necessarily. Religions and spiritual movements have had a great deal in what's happened in history. And not just the ones that you might think of. We think about witches kind of being this thing that's over here that's causing us these problems in the Wizard of Oz and that kind of stuff. You think about medicine men in Native American cultures, guiding the tribes and things like that. The Zealot movement. of the first century was actually a spiritual movement to try to oust the Romans, who were considered the Katim, the Goyim, the invader. Okay, and the Zealot movement and the Messianic movement really went hand in hand. So I think you see what I'm talking about here. Okay, enough of that. There's another thing, and it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And I'm only bringing this up because, well, some things have happened, and last night I laid awake quite a bit, and these biblical passages were coming through my head, and I was comparing them to the historical situation, a present-day thing. Now, I'm not saying Armageddon is imminent, okay? I'm not saying the second coming of Christ is here. I'm not even saying that there's an Antichrist here right now, although just between you and me, I think there is, okay? I think he's very much at work. Okay. The occult in history has had a profound influence, okay? Let me give you an example. The Mayan priests, everybody knows about this now, okay? That's why I'm using this example. You know, they knew the processes of the stars and the planets and the eclipses, for instance. And a lot of shows now, Apocalypto as an example, use their knowledge of these natural celestial occurrences to convince the people that they have some kind of communication with God. That's the first thing, or whoever their particular item or person of worship is. There's another thing that they do too, and that kind of articulates it. They pretend to prophecy fulfillment, okay? They look at, for instance, these occultists, and I'm going to talk about the Luciferians, the NWO, all these people. The Bohemian Grove is an example of that, so you know I'm not kidding here, all right? Grown men worshiping an owl, Molech, killing an infant child, burning his body to the god. Grown men, gentlemen's club, don't think so. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I could go to a lot of other stuff from there, but I want to stay on this. So the occult actually uses biblical passages to structure, to engineer prophecy fulfillment. You see what I'm saying? All right? So partly to influence you. And that's the catch. These people believe, seriously believe in their spiritual belief. That's kind of a double word. Spiritual system. They believe in the Lucifer, you know, not just that they don't believe even he's a fallen angel. They believe he is God, and that he stands against this other God who's the God that's trying to keep you in the darkness. But look at their fruits again. How do they go about this? Machiavellian ideas. The end justifies the means. Death and destruction. Break things, kill things, so that a new phoenix can arise. That's how they do things. They want to kill you so that they can organize the world the way they want it, the way they believe it should be. Sometimes I wonder when I go out in the public if that isn't a good idea, some of the things I see. But that's another problem. You know, they're throwing this gay stuff at us, and I'm not bashing gays, but you have to understand that, you know, they're eugenicists. You know, they want to kill off everybody but themselves. So the gay movement really works to their advantage. You know, abortion. I just read today where I know I get off the subject, where a doctor, you know, an abortionist, you've probably seen it in the news, I won't repeat much of it, but, you know, he waited till the babies were born and then used scissors to break their neck and kill them so that he could get the money for the abortion from the government. I'm surprised he even got caught, frankly. All right. So I think you understand that the occult, I'm saying that the occultists, the people that believe in these wicked, evil ideas, use the Bible as their playbook, their operations manual, just like Christians or Torah followers, you know, those kinds of things. I did a video here a while back called The New World Order and Genesis 47, where I show how they justify stealing from you in taxation in order to you know, give themselves power and authority. So, what am I getting at? There's been a buzz on the internet over the last little while about the significance of March 22nd, 2013. And you know, I don't buy into a lot of these things like Nibiru and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying they couldn't be true. I'm sure there are planets in the solar system, for instance, that exist that we haven't found yet. But that's not the point. Sorry, I get off track. The point is that there's a buzz going on, and I guess it got into me somehow because of some of the things that are going on. So that's what kept me awake up last night, and that's why I was thinking about what all this is about. So you have the situation with March 22nd, 2013. That's the vernal equinox. That's important for occultists, okay? It's right around the vernal equinox. You have that problem. And you have some others. And I'm going to talk about those in just a minute, give you a little break here. Okay, coming back into the frame from the other side so you know that that was a little break. This one's a long one, so I apologize. All right, getting back to these occultists, these people that are actually in power in the world. Okay, I said that they absolutely believe in it. Some of them do, maybe all of them. But the point is that they use this. You know, they tell you what they're going to do before they do it so that they're not karmically responsible for it, so it doesn't come back on them. The Bohemian Grove, where they throw their conscience away so they can do Machiavellian things. They subscribe. Don't laugh at them. Don't laugh at me telling you this. They subscribe to their ritual. All right? Just like the Bohemian Grove. They're one with it. And that's important to understand. Okay, so let's get back to March 22nd. I'm going to go back a few years to 1980. In 1980, the Georgia Guidestones were dedicated. Now, some of it on there sounds pretty good. You know, the devil always tells you 90% truth to get you to swallow the 1% lie, or the 10% lie, depending upon what it is. That's the modus operandi, however you want to say it. The Georgia Guidestone was completed on March 22nd, 1980, and dedicated. Now, there's a sacred number for the occultists, the Masons in particular. Not all Masons are bad. Please don't. You know, even the Revolutionary War was fought between good Masons and bad Masons. That was one of the undercurrents of the Revolutionary War. Not time to go into that right here, right now. But there are Masons who have tried, good Masons who have tried to bring this information out in subtle ways to warn people that bad things are happening by the bad Masons, the bad occultists, those people in those circles. And the Revolutionary War was one of those. All right. March 22nd, vernal equinox. 33 years since the dedication of the Georgia Guidestones. 33 years. Wow. So March 22nd is 322. All right, well, 322 is also one of their numbers for a particular Masonic skull and bones organization. And I'll let, just to make this interesting, I'll let you look that up. 33, the 33-degree Mason. All right. Jesus Christ supposedly was crucified when he was 33 years old. Huh. Interesting, huh? Okay, and we've got something else going on to tie all this together. Again, I'm not certain, and I'm not trying to tell you, that the end of the world is coming or whatever. I want you to pay attention to what's happening over the next few days. I don't know that anything's going to happen, but something has happened that when I put this other information about the 33 and the 322 and all of that together, Obama is in the Middle East. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think it's an accident. I think it's one of these engineered prophecies. Exactly how it's going to play out, I don't know. I'm not going to say, because if I tell you what the Bible says will happen to the two witnesses, the Secret Service will think I'm making a threat, and I'm not. I'm comparing history and biblical prophecy, okay? Remember, the devil is a synthesizer. He pretends to be God. He doesn't know God's timetable exactly, but he knows basically what's going to happen. So he engineers false things to make you believe a lie. He is the father of lies. And these people that run these organizations are his children. They are the children of lies, the liar. Okay? So something is being synthesized, created artificially in the Middle East, I believe, right now. I think we're going to see something specific happen concerning Obama and who he thinks he is, or who he wants to be, or just to fulfill the requirements of his handlers, who are actually the elitists. All right? So I don't exactly know what's going to happen, but it's very, very likely that we're going to see Obama claim to be someone pretty significant, just because he's there during this very, very odd time. Okay? The rebirth, that's what spring represents. The rebirth of life, a new beginning. Nothing wrong with that spiritually, except the devil's, artificial lie, his lie to imitate God, is something that you have to at least be aware of. It shows that you're awake, that you have a consciousness. Okay, it awakes. One of the reasons why we go through the trials and tribulations in life we do is because we may have had an I don't want to call it awareness. We may have been an intelligence in the pre-life, or even at some stage, kind of like a newborn. But to wake up your conscience, your consciousness, you go through adversity, because it makes you aware of yourself. And if you properly apply it, like with the golden rule, it makes you aware of others, of right and wrong. You become a child of God. Okay? The Luciferians, those who worship the evil side, want to be like their father. A liar, a destroyer, a hater of the creation, of the creator, of life. As I've said before, they're misogynists. They hate women in reality. They might like to play with them or whatever, but they want to kill them. They want them to disappear, to die. All right? And then the rest of mankind with it. So there's something really going on here. And I want to mention one other thing because of that enmity thing I've said more than once now. The enmity that God placed between the seed of the devil and the seed of the woman. In many circles, that's considered to be something just as simple as the battle of the sexes. But it's not. Okay, it's not that at all. That's a very simplistic, childlike view of what that's about. It's really about the war between good and evil, between the creation of God, all right, and this artificial thing that Lucifer throws up, the evil side. It's an opportunity for us to see it in action, to choose a side. Like I say, do the right thing even when it's not convenient for you. Obama wants this. He wants to be the evil, the liar, the deceiver. And I'll just say it. He might be doing something now to set himself up under the control and management of these people at the elitist level to claim that he is something very spectacular. And maybe not. But the timing of this visit is very, very suspicious to me now. I could go in more depth, but maybe you could start looking some of these things up and try to decide for yourself. What am I going to end on? Okay, I want to end on something good. Okay? I don't think, like I said, that the United States is going to survive this. I think without God's input, I don't think that the rest of us have awakened fast enough or with sufficient strength and resolve to stop what's coming. And I've said that before. And again, I hope I'm wrong about that. You know, there was Nineveh. Nineveh awoke and repented and became a good people. So it's possible. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in it. But I do want to say a couple of things here that I think are really important. And I did one of these at night the other day because of the subject matter then. But now it's raining today. It's a little overcast. But I want to give you something else to think about. Okay, I want you to find God in you. Okay, because, sorry, he's there. And he does hide behind that darkness that's in you. I'll get myself put together here in a second. And you are his sons and daughters if you have a good heart. That's the fruit that he recognizes his children by. The enmity between the evil and the woman. What's in your heart? Not that you won't make mistakes, but that you want goodness. Okay? That is a fruit that delineates you from the evil. You're not planning deceit and lies. Oh, you might engage in it once in a while, but it's not really your nature. Awaken. Rejoice and celebrate your consciousness, your individuality, and those of your loved ones and friends. Find joy in all the variety. In all of the righteous efforts of your brothers and sisters. Encourage them to excel in their righteous, good endeavors. Anything that they do to better themselves, to create, to discover, to help others. And about that helping others, give something of yourself to another, to their benefit that doesn't benefit you in an obvious way. Do that every single day at least one time. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what to believe in. That's not my place. But have the spirit of truth, of light in you. And you will find who you are. Beware of the deceivers. And wake up. Thank you for listening.